Hi art students, now that our boxes are all made, it's time that we get to the decorating process. We're going to do a couple things in this video. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to create something called Sgraffito. Sgraffito is simply applying a glaze to your box and then using tools such as these loop tools or possibly a pencil or a needle tool to actually scrape away the surface of the glaze. I can show you some examples here. Here's a jar I created using the Sgraffito process. So I glazed and then I used the tool to take away the glaze. Here's another example over here of another cup I did using Sgraffito. Okay. I'll show you how to do that process here in a second. Using something called engobes, and engobes can be located right back here in these white jars. And you'll notice when you look at the engobes that they come in a limited color palette, usually more earth tones. So your choices are white, yellow, couple shades of brown, green, blue, and I believe I also have black. So those are the colors you have to choose from for your engobe's a little bit different from glaze, because an engobe, and something you should get used to is reading these labels. An engobe is something that gets applied to leather hard greenware clay. What that means is that it doesn't have to be fired first. You put this glaze directly on the clay before it goes into one kiln firing. Okay, unlike other glazes where it has to be fired first, an engobe actually has clay particles in it that adhere right to the clay. So engobe actually cannot be put on bisque-fired clay. It has to be put on clay that is more in the leather hard stage, which at this point is where your box should be. The consistency of the engobe when you open it up, this blue one is perfect. You can see how it's like a thick kind of cream, whereas this black one has been sitting all summer and it's not moving anywhere. So if you open up an engobe and you're like, seems too thick, okay, you can stir it with a spoon. That might be enough. Or you can also add a tiny bit of water to get the right consistency. Okay? But you will most likely definitely need to mix or shake, just make sure the lid's on tight. But now this engobe is seeming much better. Maybe just a couple drops of water and a stir and it'll be ready to apply. All right, to apply the engobe, it's very simple. You're just going to get a brush, make sure it's clean. I like using a brush with soft bristles for this. And you're gonna go ahead and apply that onto your nice leather hard slab. Okay, one coat is all of you need. You do not need 3 coats of engobe like you need with most other glazes. Okay, so just go ahead and get that covered. All right, once you have all of your sides painted and everything is dry, it's time to move on to the Sgraffito process. Notice I did glaze the top edge here. Typically, with regular glazes, you wouldn't want to glaze this area, but because we're using an engobe and it's not glossy right out of the kiln, you can go ahead and glaze that top edge of your box. Okay. All right, so the Sgraffito process. In my sketchbook, I printed some pictures that I wanted to use. Line drawings are really great. Patterns are great as well. It can simply be a line pattern. It doesn't have to be representational, like I use these waves here. You can see on this one, you know, I really just use swirls and lines that repeated. Okay? But I would like you to reference something, and you don't need to print it out unless you want to. You can just leave it on your iPad and reference it from your iPad. Okay, once you've gotten some ideas of what you want to do, you can go ahead and start the Sgraffito process. You can see that I've already done 3 sides of mine, and I've decided that I'm making each side just a little bit different, but all the same relative theme. Okay. So in order to do Sgraffito, you're going to take a loop tool. I like these small ones. A needle tool will work, although it usually doesn't take away quite enough. And you could also potentially use a pencil if your clay is soft enough. But to me, this is my favorite tool. Okay. And in order to take that off, you're just going to go ahead and carve in, and it will remove the glaze. Okay. So it's that removal process that you're really looking for here. Okay. I want you to take your time with the Sgraffito. It does take some time to make it look good and to get the sufficient amount of detail. Okay. Again, take a look at mine. I'd like you to see you fill up most of the space, not just create some little thing in the center. Okay. And all sides could potentially be the same, or they could all be slightly different. So again, you're just taking that tool, and it's the scraping process of the surface to get that end gobe that you put on to go away. Okay. So see if you can finish all 4 sides today. You want to continue to store your box and your lid separately in the damp box. Okay? And when you do this process, it's really important that your clay is leather hard. So when you get your box out of your damp box and if it feels slightly too plastic, you need to set it in front of the fan or a blow dryer for a few minutes to get it to the leather hard stage. You cannot use the end globe on clay that is plastic. It must be leather hard. In the next video, in the next class that we do, I'm going to show you how to make a handle for your lid, and then we're going to paint our lids, and then our little tiny Sgraffito box will be complete and we'll be moving on to working in coils.